I had been an addict to cocaine and alcohol for a decade. I was just really deeply, deeply unhappy. If I don't believe in me, why should I expect anyone else to? And I realized then, like, confidence is the foundation.
It's so insane. We are even here on this planet that like hovers in blackness, and we're here for such a fleeting time. For me, that gives me a massive sense of confidence of just bloody do it.
Some people are going to watch what I do and they're going to like it. Others are going to find me insanely annoying, can't stand the way I speak, the way I look, the way I do this, and that's actually okay with me.
I am so excited right now because the amazing Roxie Nafousi is on the She Means Business show. Roxie, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful.
I'm so excited for this conversation. Firstly, also congratulations on your book, Confidence, the 8 Steps to Knowing Your Worth. That is just, it's amazing. And can I just say, it's such a beautiful book.
Oh my God, it is quite a gorgeous book, isn't it? I have to say, I do love it. So thank you so much.
So beautiful. I'm really excited to talk about this and confidence just because it's such a big thing, especially for anyone who's following a dream, who's trying to build a business. Like you need the confidence to be able to go for it. And I think it's where a lot of people get stuck. But I just also want to just stop for a moment, just acknowledge you because I think what you've achieved is so incredible. Obviously with your book, Manifest and Manifest Dive Deeper, you've sold over 1 million copies. Like that is so huge. Like, how does it feel to actually be like, oh my God, my book sold 1 million copies? Like that is mind blowing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it actually is mind blowing. Like, yeah, I find it really surreal, I have to say. And I think that, I don't know, that book or those books just really took a life of their own. And I think that what they've done is, I think, so rare and so exciting. And I feel like, I don't even really feel like the book is me. I feel like it's for everybody else and they've done it and just taken it to a whole new world. So I'm just very, very grateful to everyone who's let me in their journey and helped me on this mission to like make people feel better, essentially. But yeah, it is amazing and it feels amazing.
I think it's incredible. And I think I saw somewhere like that Forbes described you and the book as like a global and cultural phenomenon, which is just incredible. But it really is. And I love how you have brought like manifesting and self-development to the mainstream because it's for such a long time. I mean, it is more mainstream now, but like you've been a massive part of that. And it's always been kind of like something that people haven't really known about and people didn't really know what manifesting was or self-development or anything. And I think it's so incredible because it literally changes someone's life, like their entire life. Yeah. And I think the more people talking about this stuff, the better. And I love that you've made it cool.
Oh, thank you so much. You're honestly so kind. Thank you.
But I'm excited to talk about the confidence and dig into that. But I think what would be amazing or an amazing place to start is with your journey, because I know you talk so much about how you kind of went from this place of like serious self-loathing and like a cocaine addiction and drinking and all of that stuff. So it really in not a good place to kind of then go through this journey, this transformation to where you're at today and the level of success that you've created. And it's so inspiring. And I think so many people are on that journey, or so many people are at that place where they feel like they're in the darkness and they wonder like, am I ever going to get out of this? So it'd be so good to kind of go back to the beginning of your journey of like, I suppose before the moment, like the moment when you were like, something needs to change, like where were you at and like what was happening?
So honestly, I really was at rock bottom because basically in May 2018, at that point in my life, I had been an addict to cocaine and alcohol for a decade. And I was smoking like 25 cigarettes a day. I was a complete chain smoker, which I can't imagine now. And I was just really deeply, deeply unhappy. I had so much self-loathing. I had no job, no prospects, no motivation. I honestly didn't know what I was doing with my life. And I was 27, nearly 28. And it was just a real feeling of hopelessness, I would say. That's the kind of overarching feeling. And basically what happened is I had gone on a yoga teacher training course and hope that doing this yoga teacher training course and this 200 hours of yoga would change my life. And when I got back to London within 24 hours. I was back taking drugs. And for me, I suppose that was the moment I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to change. I don't know what to do. And that's when my friend introduced me to this concept of manifesting, and the rest is history.
Wow. So, I mean, I love that you like share so openly about that, and where you were at with it is so incredible. So when you first learned about manifesting, were you like, what is this? Like, or was it a moment of when we thought, actually, like, this makes complete sense? Like, what happened?
Yeah. So I listened to this podcast on manifestation, and essentially what this podcast explained was that manifesting was all about self-worth, and that our self-worth was determining the reality that we would create. And so I suppose for me, I was like, okay, well, I have no self-worth. So maybe I'm the one keeping myself stuck. And I went home and I started like researching, like belief systems, manifestation, the subconscious. And one thing I came across was that you could start to reprogram your subconscious beliefs by listening to affirmation meditations.
Mm-hmm.
So I would fall asleep every night from then listening to these affirmation meditations, all about like finding love, basically, because that was what I wanted to manifest first. And at the same time, I made a vision board of my perfect partner. And it was then 2 weeks later, on the 7th of June, that Wade messaged me on a dating app. And I think from then, like on our first date, I remember saying to him, I was like, I've manifested you, and I started exploring manifestation and self-development as a whole. And that really begun. And at this point, obviously, 2018, people were not talking about manifesting. It wasn't a known thing, but I was just doing my own sort of like self-exploration, really, that started with just trying to heal myself.
I mean, yeah, I love it. I listen to guided visualizations and affirmations all the time. And I love having conversations with people where they share their stories of actually going from, for example, a really a struggling situation to then starting to do like that inner work and listening to things like visualizations and affirmations, and then seeing the change happen so fast. It's so crazy.
Really.
I have been such a huge fan. A friend of mine once told me it was when I was in the early stages of building my business, and within the first 2 years, I'd kind of run out of money because I was afraid to charge anything. And I sat down and I was like, something has to change. And he said, Carrie, the most powerful voice you can ever listen to is your own. And he taught me how to create my own visualization. So that night I went home and I created this financial abundance visualization, and I started listening to it every single night. And then within like literally a few weeks, all these amazing opportunities started to arise. And I remember doing this workshop, and then I was like, I made $2,000 or something in an hour. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And it's so wild how that change can happen so quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are like, yeah, but like they don't believe it, but I'm like, seriously, you just need to go all in and do this. And that's one of the things I've heard you say before about how you really immersed yourself in like self-development and understanding all of this. And like you said, reprogramming your mind and the way you were thinking. And it's such a powerful thing. And I know for me, when I've been stuck and struggling, I think when you immerse yourself in another way of thinking, it just lifts you out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who were some of the biggest people that influenced you? I know you've talked a little bit about some of them, but like, who were some of the biggest people, and like, what were some of the things that they shared that made you think, oh my gosh, yeah?
Well, I really loved Tony Robbins, Brené Brown, Jay Shetty. But I also love listening to like Alan Watts, Wayne Dyer. I mean, I love Wayne Dyer. I could just listen to all day. And I started reading lots of books. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers was really monumental for me, because that was all about taking yourself out of victim mentality, essentially, and taking responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
I think is a big part of the whole manifesting process as well. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma, The Four Agreements. And I think I would always listen to, like, I'd type in like motivational, like morning speeches on YouTube, and I'd always listen to them when I was getting ready. And that's something I still do now. And so I was kind of listening to lots of different speakers, and even, Oprah, and I was listening to her podcast, and I loved Goop. Like, I used to listen to a lot of Goop podcasts. So I was really getting a lot of different speakers, a lot of different thinkers, a lot of different philosophers. And really, I think in my mind, subconsciously, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was getting all this information and then devising my own formula to manifestation, which
Yeah.
the 7-step guide to manifesting.
So I was going to say, what was the link between, obviously you're in this place where you were feeling really like at rock bottom, you discover manifesting and you start to really go all in on the self-help side of things. So what was the turning point, or how did it then transform into something that you began sharing? And obviously then you sharing with millions of people.
Yeah.
Like how did that journey evolve?
Well, I started by doing every Sunday. I started a week before I found out I was pregnant, something called Agni Aunt Sundays, where every Sunday I would just ask my audience to send me in dilemmas and I would write back. I don't really know why I decided to do it. I think I just really loved always giving people advice. But I think for me, it was like definitely a gift from the universe, because once I found out I was pregnant, I went through like what I would call my dark night of the soul. It was like a really traumatic time mentally for me, I think, because I gave up all my addictions at once. I was dealing with a lot. And so during a very hard time mentally, every Sunday I had this like moment where I was of service to others. And that was giving me this sense of purpose and hope. And it was connecting me. And it's actually why one of my steps of the new book is be of service to others, because I realized that actually we can feel there's so much of our confidence is built by knowing that we're of value. And so I sort of had this kind of ongoing, but during my pregnancy, I was also doing all the reading and research. And when I saw people on stage like Tony Robbins or Brené Brown, I was kind of like, my God, like, isn't it incredible how you can hear someone say just one thing, or you can read one line in a book and it can change your life forever. And so I thought, okay, I really, really want to go on stage and do speaking. And that's what I think I want to do. And so and during the pregnancy, I was also visualizing like a lot, like when I have this baby, I'm going to make my life, it's the best it can be. And when Wolf was 5 months old, I decided to host my first workshop. And so I wrote to kind of my audience on Instagram, and I just, I'm going to host this self-love webinar. It was like the first one I did. And I rented an old church, which cost me £200. And I got some balloons, and a friend of mine provided some drinks, and another friend of mine got these bracelets, and I provided everyone with like mini clipboards and like worksheets. Honestly, it was so cute when I look back on it. And, I was really nervous. And I think the important thing is I wasn't ready when I did that. In fact, I was so unready. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I didn't know like if people were going to turn up. But I just went for it. And I just thought, I've just got to start somewhere. And I saw, every time I tried, I knew it was just like a practice round for something greater. And so I started with that. And then the next workshop I did, I said, oh, like I've been doing this thing called manifesting. Should I do one? And my audience were like, yeah, I would love to know. And then I came up with 7 steps because I wanted to know how to present manifesting in a really easy way.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. And so then all my workshops turned into webinars, and then I was doing them every month. And then it really grew during the pandemic.
I love that so much, because I think so many people struggle with getting their ideas out there because they feel like they need to be more qualified or they're not ready, like what you said. I don't think ready is a feeling, ready is a decision that we make, because I don't know if we ever feel ready for it. And so obviously like you had the guts to show up and to do it. Which is amazing, which obviously links into the whole confidence piece, which I do really want to talk about. But I think it's so impressive that you did that. And I think it's really inspiring. And I hope that it inspires everyone listening to be like, if they don't feel ready or they've been teetering on the edge of something, to show up and share. And like what you said before, being of service. For me, I think that was the biggest mindset shift that helped me to just get going, because I realized if I can just show up and help people, it's not about me and it's not about what I'm getting. It's about just how can I be helpful. And I felt like that gave me, I suppose, a confidence to do it, because it wasn't this ego thing anymore. It was just, how can I help?
It takes you out your own head a lot. And I think that, for example, like right now, I feel like I look like crap. My hair's a mess. The lighting's horrible. But if I focus on that, I'll feel rubbish. Whereas I know that nobody cares. Like, people are hopefully here to like be inspired. And I hope that at least something I say can make someone feel better at the end of the day. And if that's my focus, then my self-consciousness, it literally instantly evaporates.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what matters.
Yeah, it's so true. And then it becomes not about, for example, being Tony Robbins or anyone else. It's about just being you where you're at right now, just showing up and sharing and trying to say something that's helpful. And I think that is such a powerful mindset, because I think we put other people on pedestals and we think we need to be like them or be more like them or be where they're at before we can get started. And it really holds people back. So I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about confidence. And I think that confidence is something that is really misunderstood. And I think that you sum this up so well in your book. I was actually going to read it because I just think you say it really well. So you said, in your book, you said, the way I see it, true confidence is rooted in an unshakable sense of self-worth. It's about appreciating your inherent value. It's about accepting and valuing who you are and all that you are. It's about trusting and respecting yourself and embracing all of your strengths and imperfections. Confidence means believing without a shadow of a doubt that you are deserving of all the love, success, and abundance that life has to offer. And I love this. And then you say confidence doesn't shout, because I think so often it's misconstrued in the sense of you have to be this loud, like shouty person. And so many of us are not that way. And that makes us feel really uncomfortable or awkward or whatever. But I think that confidence is a very quiet thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really powerful, and to appreciate who we are. I do totally agree. Like, that is what true confidence is. But the journey to like having that level of self-worth and self-trust and that acceptance of ourselves is a huge journey.
Yeah.
And you've obviously been on that journey to go from like that self-loathing to having that self-esteem and self-worth to do all the amazing things that you've done. It's so incredible. So like for you, how was the piece of confidence entwined in your whole journey?
Well, I think that, confidence was definitely like, when I discovered manifesting, I think I was quite easy. I quite quickly was able to like apply those principles, and my life changed really quickly. But the confidence part I was really struggling with for a long time. And I knew that to manifest the most powerfully that I could, I needed to build my confidence and know my worth. And so I really tried to kind of think is like, how can I what is the formula of confidence? Like, what are all the building blocks essential? And I started sort of practicing on myself. And one day it was almost like I just kind of realized, I was like, oh my God, for me, it was like one thing I really used to struggle with was walking into rooms of people and not feeling really less than everyone else. And I would overanalyze every single interaction I had and then be wondering what they thought of me, or if I came across annoying or embarrassing or too much or whatever it was. And suddenly that just wasn't happening anymore. I was walking into rooms, doing my thing, walking out them and not thinking about it. And I was like, oh, like for me, that was one of my definitions of confidence, is walking into any room unapologetically yourself and walking out of it not worrying what everyone thinks of you. And it kind of happened it happened over a long time, but then was like overnight suddenly. And it changed my life in every way imaginable, like truly every way. And I realized then, like, confidence is the foundation. And I think it's the first line of the book is confidence is the foundation of everything we do. And I really, truly believe it is.
Yeah. So obviously to be able to walk into a room just to be unapologetically yourself, especially to go from those feelings of like, oh, what's people thinking? Because especially with like building businesses, especially in the online space, so many people we so want to be liked. And you talk about this in the book. We so want to be liked, but we're so afraid to not be liked. And then it holds so many of us back. And then so many people, even with their businesses, don't show up online on social media, don't want to be visible because they're so afraid to say something wrong or to get it wrong or for people to judge them. What are your biggest pieces of advice when it comes to that? Like specifically the piece on being liked or being worried that people are going to judge you. And like, especially like in what you just said, like walking into a room or whether it's even like an online space,
yeah,
and feeling that fear of like what are people thinking about me? Or did I sound especially like, for example, people post online and then they have remorse and they're like, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And they freak out and then they stop themselves. So what would your biggest piece of advice be for those people?
Yeah, I definitely agree that I see this a lot. And like, I love supporting small businesses and founders. And definitely the thing I hear a lot is that there is this such fear about posting online and on social media because of this fear of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, step 3 of my book, which is stop trying to be liked by everyone, is like step 3 of the confidence book. It is so key. And I think in the book, I basically shared these like 4 essential truths. So one of them is, you never really know what people are thinking of you. So I think that this is, okay, so I'll give you this story, which is in the book actually. But when I first started public speaking, it was my first ever workshop in November 2019. And I remember looking in the audience and there was this girl in a pink tracksuit. And she was looking at me like she hated me, right? She had this sort of death stare. And I thought, why does she hate me so much? Clearly I'm doing a terrible job. And I remember like really ruminating on it, and it really made me feel a bit off, and I was focusing on it. And on the Monday, I got an email through to my inbox saying, hi, Roxie, I came to your workshop. I absolutely loved it. And I was wondering if you did one-to-one sessions. I don't know if you remember me, but I was wearing the pink tracksuit. And what it really showed me was that you really don't know what someone's thinking. What I thought was a look of disdain was actually just a look of concentration.
Mm-hmm.
But because of my own perspectives, limiting beliefs or old wounds, I was misinterpreting what the information I was receiving and making it kind of fit to whatever, negative belief I had about myself. And this happens a lot, and they're called cognitive distortions. They're ways that we kind of like, and I described them in step 1 of the book as thought filters. So we receive information and then we filter them based on our mood, our wounds, our past, and our limiting beliefs. And then they come out as a kind of new perspective, which isn't true. It's warped. And so knowing that we never know what people are thinking is kind of number 1. We can make assumptions, but we never really know unless they tell us. Another one of the 4 essential truths is that nobody is liked by everybody, right? So everybody in the world has people that love them and like them, and everyone has people that don't. And it's a harsh truth. Not everyone is going to like you.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the moment I realized that, I liberated myself, because the pressure went. Because I was like, yeah, some people are going to watch what I do and they're going to like it. Others are going to find me insanely annoying. Can't stand the way I speak, the way I look, the way I do this. And that's actually okay with me. And I think that when you realize that you're not the only one who is going to face criticism, or you're not the only one who won't be liked, you're one of everybody in the world, it becomes a lot easier to do that. So that for me was like a really key piece. And then the other was that, everything is energy. So I think that when you meet someone or you connect with someone, whether it's online, in person, at a meeting, it's just an energy thing. Sometimes you just click with people and sometimes you don't. It's not personal.
Yeah.
So I think those are really important. And the 4th truth, which I think also applies, is people aren't ever thinking about you as much as they think they are. So we might post something online and think, oh my God, everybody's, judging me or thinking it's cringe. People have just probably scrolled on.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at anything for that long. Nobody cares enough because they're just flicking. And so I think really it's about all of those truths can really help you to be like, do you know what? Let me just show up authentically. Let me do content that I am proud of. Let me do something that I hope will help educate or inspire or entertain at least one person. And that should be your focus.
Yeah, I do think that, isn't it funny? The stories that we tell ourselves, the lies that we make up, that we cling on to, and then they become beliefs. You talk about this in the first step of the book about mastering your thoughts, which I just think is fundamental in life, to master your thoughts, because I always call it like the negative committee. Because if you're not careful, they'll just run away with themselves in your head, and they're just telling you all these stories and making up all this nonsense, like exactly what you said, like the girl in the pink tracksuit. And it's like, she was just very, that was her concentration face. But the way we misinterpret things, and then the stories we tell ourselves, it's really interesting. It's kind of like what you said before, in terms of like the way we choose to to view ourselves, like you're talking about, like looking like crap or feeling like crap or whatever. And actually, no, it's like, what can I just show up and say and be of value? But it's interesting as well, isn't it? I think when you're talking, it makes me feel like this is where we all have to go, I think, down the rabbit hole of self-help and learning and immersing ourselves in all of this information. Because like you said, it happens over a long period of time, but then one day it's like you just realized that you've made a change. I remember years and years ago, I did this like NLP master practitioner thing with like Paul McKenna and God, what's his name? Richard Bandler. And I remember we learned this exercise where if you have like a bad thought, negative thought, worry or whatever, you basically say stop, and then you scrunch at the thought and you throw it behind you. And at the time I was struggling a bit with that, like anxiety. And I remember thinking, God, this is what? It was like as if, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try it. So every time like a thought would come into my mind, I would like say to myself, stop. And I would imagine scrunching it up and throwing it behind me. And at first I was like, this is silly. And then I remember like a few months had gone by, and I was like, oh, I've not had those thoughts anymore. And it's crazy, isn't it? Like all of a sudden you just realize like, oh, I can just walk into a room and I can feel fine. And that shift has happened. We've just changed like who we're being. I remember, it's really interesting on this journey of like confidence and everything. There was somebody who I worked with, and we were in London a few months ago, and they were telling me how they were like, I got 17 high fives this morning from strangers. And I was like, what? Yeah. And this person's American. And they were like, yeah, I like walked down the street and I was running down the street and I was high-fiving, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry, like walk me through this. What did you actually do? Because they were like, well, yesterday I only got 3 high fives. And I was like, right, stop, tell me. And they were like saying how they were running down the street and they would like high five a stranger walking past them. This is in London as well. Like people in London are like, we don't do this kind of thing.
So true.
And they were telling me how the first day they only got 3 high fives because they were like literally just running and high fiving someone and not giving them enough warning. And so people were freaked out. And then they said, the second day, they would see someone coming towards them and they would be like, high five, high five, high five. And then high five. And they said the person's eyes would light up and they get really happy. And I was like, that is amazing. The level of like confidence, like, and they have been through this massive like personal development journey. But I was like so in awe of the fact that like, I could never run down the street and just high five strangers. I would feel like such an idiot. Totally. But the amount of confidence that it takes to kind of do that is just so incredible. And I just think it's all part of this journey of us like almost coming home to ourselves of who we really are. Like you say this in the book as well. It's like, we are good enough. In fact, I always, when I ever read books, I always go to the last part that someone ever writes. I always go to that. But you said, here's the truth. Confidence has always been within you. When we're born, we don't question whether we're good enough. We exist unapologetically, expressing ourselves freely and moving through the world with curiosity and boldness. And I remember recently having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about like the struggle of like not feeling good enough, which obviously is part of confidence. And the realization that when we are born, we are immediately good enough. And then I thought about my kids and I'm like, when they were born, they were immediately good enough. And it's funny how we pick up these stories throughout our lives that make us feel like we're not good enough. Like so much so to the point where I literally got a bunch of pictures of myself when I was a kid and just had them on my desk to remind myself of that version of me that was good enough already. Like I was good enough with nothing, you know, like we put so much pressure on ourselves that we need the qualifications or we need the this or the that. And we don't really need that at all. And it's remembering who we are and that we're good enough. I think your book does an amazing job of like helping people to get back to that place with like all the exercises and the questions that you ask. One of the other things that I really wanted to talk to you about, because I really loved that you said this in the book, you said we glorify humility. Oh my goodness. We do this so much, especially in the UK.
Yes.
We're bad with this. Like this whole idea of like, don't boast, keep yourself to yourself, be quiet. And it's such a detrimental, like programming, you know, piece of programming that holds us back so much. Can we talk about this? How, like, what has your experience been with that, with that of feeling like that you needed to be like humble, but you say this in the book as well. Humility and being humble is obviously good to an extent, but then it goes too far. And then it's when we like kind of almost put ourselves down, or we don't want to shine our light at all because we're afraid that we're going to be a show off. Don't want to be a show off.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, I think it's really difficult to kind of get out of that frame of mind. Like, what has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's sort of when we're young, it's you look at the way we kind of parent people. Don't boast. Yeah, it's exactly. Don't show up. Don't show off. Don't be too much. Don't be too loud. We try and dumb our kids down.
Yeah,
I think especially like our parents' generation, they did that to us a lot. And for me personally, I mean, my mum really believed strongly in the evil eye, which is really big in our culture, and that's all about not attracting negative energy or jealousy from others, because then something bad might happen to you. And that for me was very toxic, because actually it really made me so afraid of appearing too happy or too successful, or and it puts you off celebrating yourself. And I think that all of us have this kind of old ingrained idea that we shouldn't be too much for other people, or we might not be liked. And I think part of the reason for that is because we confuse confidence with arrogance, and we're so afraid of coming across arrogant that we self-deprecate instead. But arrogance and confidence are just not the same thing. And in the book, I make some really clear distinctions between them, because I think it's so important to recognize their differences so that we can start to celebrate ourselves and back ourselves. I think that we so rarely hear people just back themselves, and it's so refreshing when we do. I love hearing people, if you compliment someone let's say I meet someone and I've just seen them in, I don't know, let's say I just saw them speak on stage and I was like, oh my God, you were amazing. And they're like, thank you so much. I had such a great time. That is so much more refreshing and nicer to hear than, oh God, no, I wasn't, or if you say, oh my God, I love that piece of content you created. It was so good. And they're like, thank you. I you know what, it was really hard to make, but I was really pleased with the outcome. It's nice to hear that. And I find it inspiring when I hear people back themselves, because it's so rare.
Yeah. That is something that I really had to work on, because it's that automatic reply of like, oh, you look really nice. Oh, no, I don't. Like, I've had to work so hard on that so that when people compliment me, I can just say, oh, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And because I even annoy myself in the past. I was annoying myself by like putting myself down. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why is this such an automatic response out of my mouth? Yeah. It's so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The habits that we pick up that just become so detrimental. I think that is a big one that we really need to unpick the pattern of, and just kind of like you said, like back ourselves and own it a bit more. And I mean, I do think getting there is all part of this big process of the work that you talk about, which kind of leads me on to something I really wanted to ask, because I think this is going to be so helpful for people. Is like, obviously there's so many different exercises and different things you share in the book, but what are some of the non-negotiables that you think can like really change someone's life if they kind of just maybe do them every day or every week? What would you say are the top things that could help somebody, like anyone really, but also like the person who is really struggling with this and just feeling like, just really stuck, and that horrible, horrible place where you don't have any self-worth, you don't have that self-esteem, and you feel like crap all the time. Like, what would you say are some of the non-negotiables that they could do that could like really help?
Yeah. I mean, great question. And I think there's so many people who are feeling like that, and I totally relate. And it is so exhausting. Like, beyond anything, it's exhausting. I think there are a few things to like start with. I think one of them is there's this exercise in step 6, celebrate yourself. Step 5, celebrate yourself. Yes. Which is all about recognizing your everyday qualities. And I think it's such a powerful little exercise for people to start with, because this is sometimes when we think about our strengths and things that we're good at, we will think about things that we can put on a CV. Every one of us has so many like everyday strengths that we're not celebrating and we're not recognizing in ourselves. And it can be such a nice little exercise to bring some of that feeling of pride back into our lives. So it could be that you're really good at getting everyone at that house on time. It could be that you're really good at giving your friends a different perspective. It could be that you're really good at injecting some humor into a situation when it's needed. It could be that you've always got the right thing in your handbag for someone when they need it. It could be that you know how to make someone feel cared for. You know, I think all these little things that we offer the people around us are so they're so underrated, and they shouldn't be. So I think just being able to write a list of your everyday qualities can be a really nice little exercise to do. Another one is, of course, gratitude. I think the power of gratitude is so incredible, and there's so much scientific research on the power of it for sleep, anxiety, depression. And I think that having a really powerful gratitude practice is like life-changing. And I share lots of different ones, both in Manifest and Confidence. And another would be repeating positive affirmations. So, you know, affirmations are so powerful because they really send a message to our brain that we are enough, and we can use it to really replace those negative thoughts and stop that kind of like negative cycle in its track. So I swear by affirmations.
I love affirmations. Like Tony Robbins, I remember listening to his like incantations. I'm sure if you've done Tony Robbins stuff, you've probably done his incantations.
I haven't.
Obviously, he has a totally different energy of like loud American, but I remember him doing them, and like you feel it in all your body. Have you ever done one of the Tony Robbins like programs?
No.
I've done quite a few of them now, and like it does take me a moment to get into it with like because it's a lot of jumping around. But like you fully embody the affirmation, the incantation, and so like doing them, like sometimes I like listen to music and like really loud upbeat music and do it in the car, or sometimes I'm on like my rebounder in the morning, like listen to music and doing affirmations.
Love that.
In itself, like it literally changes everything. It changes the way you feel. It's even, you know, that whole thing of like if you smile at yourself in the mirror, like literally the chemical reaction inside of you, like it's just incredible. And I also love that about like the gratitude piece. Like it's so simple but so powerful, because if you can't be in like that space of gratitude and also feel really bad at the same time. And I think that like we take a lot of stuff for granted. And actually when we realize we've got a lot to be grateful for, it's just a really powerful like perspective shift that I know I come back to like over and over and over again. I have all these crazy like little exercises and techniques for myself, because I just feel like, especially when you're doing something that you're on a journey of growth and expansion, or you're building a business, or you've got a message that you want to put out in the world, like you're pushing yourself so far outside of your comfort zone so often. You're doing things that you've never done before a lot of the time. And I find that there's so many moments where like it's like that new level, new devil constantly. It's like you don't ever overcome. I don't know about you, but like I feel like I've never really overcome. Like the negative thoughts are all there still. It's just like I've got better at knowing how to handle them. And it's been like a really important part of my practice. And like one of the things I always think is like, you get one life. I'm like, Carrie, this is not a dress rehearsal.
Yeah,
like,
love that.
Stop. I remember doing a TEDx talk once, and I was so petrified. There's like 1,000 people in the audience, and the person behind stage with me was like, "You okay?" And I was like, because I looked so petrified, and I was like, "No, I'm going to do this." And I remember one of the things that really helped me was, have you ever seen like that image? It's like of the universe, and then it's like got this tidgy little dot, and it's like circle, and it says "You are here."
Oh my God, yeah.
And I'm like, I always see that, and I'm like, it's so insane that we are even here on this planet that like hovers in blackness, and we don't even understand it. And we're here for such a fleeting time. And I think for me, that gives me a massive sense of confidence of just bloody do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, speak up, say it, work on yourself, make the effort to do it. Don't let those beliefs that you've picked up along the way hold you back and like keep you playing small.
Yeah.
Have you found that? Because like my journey, like with it all and success, and I remember having like a quarter life crisis of like, what am I doing, and feeling so lost and confused and all that stuff. And in fact, one of my biggest moments of my journey was a Tony Robbins quote that said, 10 years from now, you'll surely arrive. The question is where? And I was like, where am I going to arrive? And I'm like, I don't know. I better figure this out. And so I did. But like throughout my journey, I feel like that inner work piece has been such a huge part of it and is such a huge part of my success, and something I've just constantly had to work on. And over the years, I've kind of like sometimes fallen off the bandwagon with it. Like sometimes I've just, I don't know, kind of fallen off with my practices and found myself spiraling. Have you found that? Like, and I think it'd be really interesting to know your honest answer with this, because like you've written these books, and I think maybe people might then think you've got this perfectly figured out, which I'm assuming isn't true. So like, what has your journey been with that, and like with this whole practice?
I think that for many years, I really, really struggled. While I was building my career, I was really struggling with my confidence. Like I would have a panic attack every single time I did a podcast on camera, every time I went on TV. I hated it. I hated having to show up publicly, but kept doing it anyway because I knew I had a greater mission in sight. But I really struggled with it and I didn't enjoy it, and nobody saw how much I hated it. But there was a lot of insecurity that was coming up. I really struggled with self-doubt and feeling not enough. However, I now am at a point where I really am so confident in who I am. And I think all my friends can see it, and it is like such a shift, and it's like an energetic shift that is so different. And it's not that I don't have days where I have some self-doubt creep in. I absolutely do, but it only lasts a day and then I move on. Whereas before it would have lasted days and weeks and months.
Yeah.
It's just my comeback is quicker. But 90% of the time, I do feel genuinely proud of who I am, and I do like myself. And I just never thought I'd be able to say that. And it's a really amazing position to be in.
I think that's so powerful what you just said. I actually like myself. Like, how many people don't even realize how much they dislike themselves? Like, it's just such an ingrained level of the way they treat themselves, the way they talk to themselves. That is actually another reason why I've got that picture of my younger self here, because I think it's easy for us, our self-talk, to be bad and to actually stop and be like, no, I wouldn't say that to her. Like, I wouldn't treat her that way. So why am I going to say this about myself? And like controlling the narrative in our mind. It's just everything, isn't it? Like,
it's about really backing yourself, like being your cheerleader. And I think that's what has really helped me, is like, if I don't believe in me, should I expect anyone else to?
Yeah. And it's everything, because I think we just really tap into our power. We like unleash ourselves when we can get to that place. And I totally agree. I think that comes down, that is like the heart and soul of it, isn't it? That is the heart and soul of confidence. It's that. And it's so powerful, and all of us have the ability to tap into it and access it. Like I think that's how you end your book, saying it's always been there. It's always been within us. And we just don't even realize it. And it's just kind of like waking it back up and stepping into it. And like, that's what makes me think all the time, like, we get one life. We might as well spend some time trying to figure out how we actually tap back into that and like be more confident and express ourselves fully and feel liberated. Like, cause sometimes when you're not confident, you feel so trapped, and it's a really hard place to be, and it's hard to create success or manifest anything from that place. And I guess that is also obviously like the link between manifesting and confidence. It's like, obviously you need the confidence to actually go and take the action to actually manifest the thing that it is you want to manifest. So I think without that confidence piece, we're not going to just manifest something by itself, really, are we?
Exactly.
So I love that you've written this book and that it's such a perfect follow-up from Manifest, your first book. Like, it's really amazing. I want to ask you this. If you could whisper into the ear of younger Roxie, the version of you that was really struggling and in that dark time, like, what would you whisper to her?
Oh, gosh. I just think I wish I could tell her that she was just enough as she was, and she didn't need to change who she was to make other people like her. And that, yeah, I think it's just knowing that we're enough. I think I would just wish I felt enough and knew that I was enough as I was.
Yeah, I love that. It's so powerful. More of us need to really feel like we are enough, because we are.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for coming and talking about this. I think, like I said, it's such an important topic, and I love the angle that you bring to this book. I think it's really refreshing, and it's really real, and it's so important, because the more people that really truly do feel worthy and good enough, the world is going to be a much better place, and people are going to be doing more amazing things. So thank you for shining your light so brightly and making this way more mainstream, because it needs to be.
That's so kind. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I really hope you have all loved this episode so much. Come, let me know on social media. If you're not already a subscriber over on Apple, then subscribe, because it will help the podcast get out to way more people. Yes, and let me know all your thoughts on this. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business Show.